Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. It has been a minute. It's now almost March and I still haven't done any wrap-ups for the year. I've been super busy with school and work, but I thought that I would at least sit down and do some quick wrap-ups for you guys. In 2019, I have finished 8 books. So the first book that I finished this year was Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. It is the 3rd book in the Gentleman Bastard series. It is a fantasy thieves related series that I'm really enjoying. As far as I know, this might be the last one that has been published. I did feel like I saw an additional one somewhere in Goodreads, but I haven't seen it in any bookstore. I'll have to see if maybe I can buy it online, or if maybe that's a novella or something. I'd have to investigate it more. But it was published back in 2014, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed the rest of the books in the series. It's just as fun and witty and funny as the other ones. If you like thieves, if you like heists, if you like fantasies and lies and morally gray characters, I would recommend this series a lot. I think it's great. It's very entertaining and gripping, and I enjoyed my time reading it thoroughly. So my favorite thing about this one was that we finally got to see Sabitha, who is the sort of main love interest of our main character, Locke Lamora. We hear a lot about Sabitha throughout the first 2 books, but we don't actually see her, and she finally appears in this book. And I obviously won't say much more than that because it is the 3rd book in the series, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great start to my reading year. Second was volume 7 of Giant Days, and like I have said and felt with the others, it is really fun. It's a great graphic novel about friends and college life and family and sort of the issues that you deal with, and I love their wit and their humor and how glib they are about certain things and how not about others. And I love the love interests and the friends and the friendships, and there is lesbian representation in this as well. So it's really fun, and I really love these characters. I'm going to really care for them as I read the volumes, and I recommend it if you're looking for something fun and great and sort of girl-led to read as a graphic novel. I recommend Giant Days for sure. Then I read the memoir Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. You might know him from Comedy Central and his stand-up comedy shows and things like that. He is a South African comedian turned late-night host, who I guess is also still a comedian in his late night show, and it's about how he was born a crime. He was born during apartheid in South Africa, and so he has a white father and a black mother, and that was illegal. And he talks about what the circumstances around his birth were and his childhood, and how he was treated differently than those around him, and how he grappled with identity and self, the relationships that were had around him, his mom, his dad, his family members, friends that he had. And it is an incredibly interesting story. I did listen to it on audiobook, and I second everybody else's opinion that if you have the ability to listen to it on audio, please do so. He narrates it himself, and it is so good. It's funny, and there are so many things about it that really get you thinking, because we tend to view the world from our own little lens, and reading other people's stories allows that lens to get a little bit wider, and I think this is one of those stories that does that. And perhaps the most significant part about perhaps the most sort of poignant part of this book that made me feel that was his story about a friend of his named Hitler, and sort of what that means or does not mean in South Africa, and he puts it into context of history and of how South Africans view the world and how people outside of America view the world and history. And it was very interesting because he talks about things that I hadn't really thought about. So I would definitely recommend picking it up because I think he has a lot of important things to say, and it was just overall also very entertaining. And yeah, so definitely do pick it up if you can. Then I read The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. Let me see what I wrote here. The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. I believe this would be my third Sarah Waters. It was published back in 2009. And it is, as all of her books have been so far. And I think everything that she's written is historical fiction. This is the first that I've read of hers that is not sort of a lesbian fiction, whatever that means, or it doesn't have a lesbian main character, though it can be argued that one of our main characters might be, though not explicitly said in any way in the book. And this is about a gentleman doctor that lives in this town, and he's enthralled by this estate and this house that is in his town, and he has been since he was a kid. And as an adult, he has the ability to build a friendship with the family that lives there, and it sort of takes on a life of its own, and the house is another one of these that becomes its own character, and it's very atmospheric like all of her books have been, though it is in many different respects, in many specific respects, very different than anything else of hers that I have read. Firstly, obviously, because our sort of main love interest is not between two women. Also, it's slow paced like the others have been. It's not as sort of twisty turny as some of the other ones have been, and what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not very like urgent. It doesn't have the urgency that some of the other books that I've read have had. So in Fingersmith and in The Paying Guest, it gets to a point where it is twisty turny, and there's this mystery involved, and there is an urgency to the story that I didn't quite feel when I was reading this one. It took me a while to get into this one, more so than it has in the past, and I understand why some people might not like it as much as her other ones, but ultimately the qualities of, her great writing is still there, and her atmospheric world building and writing is still there, and the historical fiction aspect of it is still there, and how that all plays into our characters' lives is still present, but it was, yeah, it took me a while to sort of get into the male lead as opposed to a female lead. I do enjoy how well she writes women. Again, we have these incredibly complex characters that you're sort of trying to grapple with and understand the more you read. There's a lot of sort of discussion online about the ending of it, and I think it made sense to me. I think you sort of see it, she leads you up to it. And so it ended in the way that I thought it was gonna end. But what I will say about this is that it didn't leave as lasting an impression on me as the other two have. I have constantly thought about The Paying Guests and Fingersmith, whereas this one I really had to read back up on it. I had kind of forgotten what it was about. I still know that I enjoyed my time reading it, but it's not been my favorite Sarah Waters so far. Then I read Not Your Sidekick by C.V. Lee, and this is a young adult sort of superhero book. It's a little bit different than anything I've read before, because it's not, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's really a superhero book. I don't know, I guess you could call it fantasy because the characters have abilities, but it feels weird to call it fantasy. It really does feel weird to call it a sort of superhero. Instead of graphic novel, it's just all words, and it was great. It has Asian representation, many characters of color. Our main character is bisexual, and we also have a trans character as well, so it's great rep, and this was another one that it sort of took me a little bit to get into, but it takes place in a far off future, but it doesn't feel distant. It doesn't feel unrealistic. It feels like it's something that could very well be happening or happen. So in that sense, I give the author props. I thought it was a fun read, and it was fast-paced. It didn't leave a ridiculously lasting impression on me at all, but it was entertaining, and I'm glad that I read it. Will I continue with the series? I don't know. I'd probably have to sort of be in the mood for it, but I mean, it was fun, and I enjoyed when I was reading it. I guess a little bit of background on it is that our main character is trying to desperately find out if she has any powers, because her parents are heroes and her sister is a hero, and so she doesn't think that she has any abilities. Nothing has manifested, and it's about her trying to find abilities beyond what she deems them to be, and find herself and find her truth, and just kind of learn more about her own self, what she likes, and what the type of person that she wants to be, and the type of what side of history she wants to be in. And so in all of that, I think it has a lot of great themes. It was just, it didn't completely blow me away, but it was fun and entertaining. So if that's what you're looking for, by all means, do pick it up. Then I listened to We Were 8 Years in Power by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is 8 essays that he wrote for The Atlantic during the Obama administrations. And so they're all included in the essay collection, and then he gives them all an introduction, and he puts them all in sort of into context, and he reflects on them as well. I had never read any of the essays on The Atlantic, so for me everything in the book was new, though I know that that's not been the case for some people. Some people have gone in already having read that, and so feel like, oh well, I didn't get too much new out of it. For me, everything was new, so it was great. I think my enjoyment level of it depended also on the fact that I had never read any of them before. I think they were wonderfully written, like everything that I've read of his has always been. I think the way that he expresses ideas from everything from black conservatism to reparations, I think he does it so eloquently and in such a way that really gets you thinking about it. And the gender aspect of it was missing for me, but I'm not surprised that it was. He writes from a very specific point of view, and I appreciate it, and I would love to see that sort of more current. I would love to see him do another one of these now in the current administration that we're in. And yeah, I think it was great. I'm really glad that I read it. I want to read everything that he's ever created, because I think he is a wonderful writer, and I think he has some great ideas and really interesting things to say, and I greatly recommend it. It was one of my picks for Black History Month. My second pick for Black History Month was March Volume 1, which is a graphic novel written by John Lewis and Andrew Aiden, and the artist is Nate Powell. And it starts off with the inauguration of Obama, and John Lewis is getting ready to go when he gets a visit from a mom and her 2 sons, and so he sort of begins to tell them a little bit about his history and how he got involved into the civil rights movement and what it meant to him, and how his family handled it, and some of the instances that he was involved with. And I think it's great. Everything that's been said about it before stands. I think it's worth the hype. The art is black and white and a little bit gritty, but I think it goes really well with the story, and I think it's an important story that should be told, and I think that doing it in this medium makes it more accessible also, and I think it's great. And then Lewis and I listened to the audiobook of Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, and it was a very sad, it was great, and we really enjoyed it. And he's really funny, and he's exactly who he is on TV, and he is exactly the person that he sort of has always been in the public eye on the book. And I think that was really great, because it felt very genuine and very open-hearted and very raw and honest, like he's always been. So, you know, obviously he's crude and he curses a lot, and if that is not the type of thing that you enjoy, then definitely don't pick this up because you're not gonna enjoy it. He talks about how he got into the kitchen and the cooking and restaurant industry and how much he loves it, and all of the things that he recommends that people do if they too want to be in this industry. And I think it's very, like I said, it's very raw and it's very honest, and we really enjoyed ourselves with it. And I gave it like a 4.5 stars. Lewis was like, what? It was definitely a 5 star. So for Lewis it was a 5 star listen. And yeah, I mean, it was great, and it was really sad at the same time because obviously he passed last year. And Lewis and I love Anthony Bourdain, and we love watching his shows, and we love his outlook on life and on other countries and cultures. And I love how much of an advocate he's always been for Latin American cooks and chefs in the industry in ways that no one else has been. And you sort of, all of these celebrity chefs have had all of these minority groups behind them, and they wouldn't be where they are if these minority groups weren't in their kitchens. But you don't hear them talking about it in the way that he has, and so I so appreciate that. And it was wonderful, and it was great, and it was really entertaining, and I definitely really recommend it. So that is the last book that I finished. This is 20 minutes long. Hopefully I can narrow this down, but as always, thank you for watching and for listening. Sorry for being so absent, and I love you guys.